guys, I am your host, Supreme Kumbaya, and welcome to another episode of Supreme Diaries. Today we are going to be talking about being multi-dimensionally jacked. So what does it mean to be multi-dimensionally jacked? It means you embrace all your capabilities and interests. It means you don't just work out your body, but you work out your body, mind and soul, and all other facets that come with it, such as finances and relationships, not only for interest's sake or for survival, but for the betterment of your life. So why would you want to be multi-dimensionally jacked when you can specialize, right? Here's why. Let's take musicians and soccer players. They specialize in or with their talents, but somehow they wind up dying miserable, broke, and lonely. Why is that? The answer is simple. It's because they neglected on working on everything else, such as their finances, their relationships, and only nurtured their talents, and found themselves vulnerable to all sorts of scrutiny because they could not function as multi-dimensionally jacked humans. That it means they could not pay attention to their life holistically so. And there is no place you want to find yourself in. And I am here to offer you a blueprint of how you can become multi-dimensionally jacked by taking you through my journey of how I've become multi-dimensionally jacked, and you can copy and paste it into your life. And I hope it will work for you as it has done wonders for me. Here are some of my interests and capabilities I have incorporated in my life to become multi-dimensionally jacked. It is working out, reading, philosophy, music, spirituality, finance, business, and finally starting this YouTube channel. Those are some of the interests and capabilities that have helped me become a multi-dimensionally jacked being. And I will be going into detail on each one of them, starting with working out. And ironically, most of them have a backstory. I mean, because we tend to need a reason why we do it. And I guess that's where the backstory comes in. Like, so why did I start working out? In high school, I remember my friends and I were working out, specifically lifting weights to get physically jacked, to attract girls. There was a reason why. As is for many teenage boys, girls are a motivating force for a lot of the things that we do. And ever since, I have an on and off relationship with working out. In the winters, I find it hard to wake up and work out because I need to do it in the morning before work, because otherwise, after work, I'm quite fatigued. But I always make it a point to get back into the habit of working out. But as I've grown into adulthood, the only thing that has changed about it is the reason why I work out. I now work out for the health benefits of it, which I find to be a much more motivating factor. Because the older I get, the more I understand the importance of health. Therefore, working out is something I'll forever incorporate in my life. So my follow-up interest is reading. And like I said, my interests and capabilities are all motivated by a big why. And I worked out because of girls, started reading because of girls. And here's the backstory to that. So in high school, I fell in love. I managed to screw it up when I got to college and lost the love of my life. So I thought at that point. And a lot was happening during that breakup. Number one, I was away from my friends since I attended tertiary in a different city from the rest of them. Number two, it was the breakup with the love of my life. Number three, I was changing locations. I had to move from the location that I grew up into a different location. It means I was away from the people that I've known for a very long time. Number four, I started experiencing something I would call some sort of betrayal from friends, you know. And I think mentally, I was not equipped for all this change that was taking place all at once. So you can imagine, I was quite depressed at this point, but I did not know I was depressed. I only realized it in hindsight after I had an understanding of what depression was. And that was after a lot of reading and some YouTube videos and a lot of soul searching. And a friend of mine sent me a PDF of Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was the beginning of my reading journey. Ironically, he still hasn't read that book or any other book. And I've lost count of how many books I've read ever since reading that book. And Rich Dad Poor Dad made me believe I could take charge of my life because I did not just view it as a personal finance book. I viewed it as a story of self-determination, a story of self-improvement, of how Robert Kiyosaki tells his story. And at this point, I just didn't care much for friends since I felt betrayed by some of them. And anyways, I was away from most of them anyways. So I just isolated myself, stayed indoors, reading PDF books on self-improvement. Did some soul searching. Reading was what helped me understand myself, my mind, my environment, and it gave me the tools to cope in a forever changing world. And ever since then, I've just never stopped reading. Now I even buy myself hard copy books because I understand the value of reading a great book. In short, reading and consuming information is how I stay mentally checked. My interest in reading was followed up by philosophy because as much as I read, there was still some things that I did not understand about human existence, human behavior, and the world as a whole. So I started dabbling in philosophy. Started reading some Nature, How Human to Human, some Albert Camus, The Absurd. Most of it was difficult to comprehend. But what I managed to pick up is that humans' understanding of self, his existence, and understanding of the world is flawed, which is what causes so much existential dread. And that there is really no meaning for one's life besides the meaning that one assigns himself for his life. And understanding that has made me look at life differently, has made me curate my life differently. Because I've seen that people who are waiting for a savior outside of themselves seem to wait forever. And I never wanted to be like them. So philosophy has instilled the mentality of resistance and resilience in my life, which I think is the reason why I am still here, you know, to see this life of mine through. I think people are most likely to commit suicide for two reasons. One, it's when you understand a little bit of philosophy, or two, when you understand a little too much of philosophy. Because philosophy will tell you that life is meaningless, and again, it will tell you that you must create your own meaning. And people might find the latter very difficult thing to do, but it's something that I found empowering. Next up on my list of interests is music. I remember growing up, my brother played a lot of R. Kelly, and then initially he played a lot of 50 Cent. So it went from R&B to gangster rap, and that is what I caught on. I did not like R. Kelly that much. I'm not saying that 50 Cent resonated with me, but I don't know, for some reason it's what I gravitated towards. And then later on, an older brother of my friend introduced the both of us to Kanye West. At that point, I was influenced by the older gents because they were cool, older, thought they knew better, and wanted to be like some of them. And then when my balls dropped, I discovered Lil Wayne along with my friends because, he was big. There was no way that you could miss him. So I started listening to a lot of Lil Wayne. He literally shaped my thinking for some time in my early teenage years. He was the reason why I did not do my homework at some points because of a line he rapped in one of his songs saying, I ain't do my homework because I ain't got time. Something along those lines. And he was the reason why some of the girls got the worst of me. He was the reason why I called girls bitches. And not just him, like a lot of the music that I was listening to at that point shaped my thinking, especially towards women, how I behaved. It shaped my thinking in what I thought was cool, what wasn't. And as I grew older, I realized how much the music I was listening to has impacted and influenced my life. And I couldn't just stop listening to music. So what was the next better thing to do? It was to change the type of music that I was listening to. As I became selective of the artists and music that I was listening to, it led me to 90s hip hop because there was some of the stuff that I found I could listen to. Those are stuff that For some reason, it filled a certain void in me. Artists with influence of the 5% nation in their music, like artists that had reference of 5% knowledge or information in their music, such as Nas, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang Clan, and J Electronica. And to those who do not know what the 5% Nation is a sect from the Islam Nation. It's an offshoot of Islamic teachings. That was very instrumental in uplifting the black men and women in the US. It taught them about self-determination. It taught them that they are divine beings. It was a teaching that was meant to reprogram the black people in America from the programming of slavery. That is what it was trying to accomplish. I think it highly resonated with me because I'm a young black man who's very conscious, and I still find myself in a white dominated society. So I think that was why I resonated with it. So music was another tool that I used to rebuild myself from my brokenness. And I believe music is spirituality. So I used music to check myself up spiritually. So, and that led to my next interest, which was to try and align myself spiritually. So, and why is that? The reason being is that the older I grow, the more I do, the more I achieve, is the more that I realize that I could conquer the world and still not be satisfied if I'm not spiritually in tune. It is a natural instinct for us human beings to want more, to want to be more, to want to do more. It can be destructive if you're not spiritually in tune. It can be good if you're spiritually in tune, because that instinct of wanting more is the sole reason for all this human progress and experience that we have achieved thus far. But if that instinct is untamed or administered without a dose of spirituality, the results could be an unfulfilled and a miserable life. And the greatest thing that I've come to learn and love about spirituality is that it is not narrow and constricted as we have been led to believe. And I've come to know this by looking at the life of Jesus, of the Christianity, the Buddha for the Buddhism, Muhammad for the Islamic nation, and so that they all took different paths to get to the same place. And that place is enlightenment, which results to a fulfilling and peaceful life with or without worldly possessions, and not having to conquer the world, but having to conquer myself and using spirituality as a tool. But for as long as I am of this world, there are certain skills that I need to master, such as finances. I remember growing up, I mostly spent the money that was given to me on fun and buying clothes. And the key word is given and not earned, because when it is given, we always assume there is more where it came from, which is true. There is always more money from where it came from. But it never comes as easy as it is given. It is earned through hard work, and I had to learn this the hard way. When I started earning my own money, working 22 days a month, 8 hours a day, and got paid minimum wage once every after 30 days or so. And from the 10th day to the 30th day, being broke and frustrated. And that was when I remembered the principle of saving that I had read about in The Richest Man in Babylon. You see once again how reading has come to save me. It is important that as a human being you become multi-dimensionally jacked. And when I started implementing that principle, it did not make me rich, but to my surprise, it gave me peace of mind. Because I remember at some point we would get paid late, and my colleagues would be panicking because they were still living from paycheck to paycheck. I had my savings to fall back on until the next check came in. And that was the first step of learning how to manage my finances. And then I got into budgeting. If you do not want to end up like musicians and soccer players that I spoke about earlier, it is paramount that you master your finances. And yes, it's not something that you can do overnight. Everything that I'm going through here is not something you can do overnight. It is consistent work over a lifetime. And what is a better way to make more money and manage money better than starting a business? My next interest, which is something of my recent years. And I believe I could only come to start a business after at least I've come to understand or master some of my interests and capabilities that I've mentioned before I got here. So my current interest is business. I think business is a great endeavor because in business nobody succeeds unless they are selling a product or service that humanity needs or desires, which makes it a win-win sum game for everybody involved. I'm interested in business because I used to think of it as my path to freedom, which would allow me to do what I want when I want. But I now use it as a vehicle I use to challenge myself. Because anybody who started and ran a business will tell you how difficult it is to start and run a business. And I do not want ease in my life because I understand that anything worthwhile will never be easy. I want to make an impact, and I believe I can do that through business because business requires one to be selfless. And what on earth is better than serving humanity? I couldn't think of any other way of doing it than starting a business. And the last way I thought of flexing my interest and capabilities was starting a YouTube channel. I think it is better to not think about creativity at all than to think that you're not creative at all. And I used to think of the latter. But as I grew older and started to reprogram myself, started believing in myself, and started believing that I could do anything that I put my mind to, I decided on starting this YouTube channel. I then had to decide on something I thought I was not born for to try and prove my point. And that was the pursuit of creativity. That is how and why I started this YouTube channel. It is also to reprogram and motivate young people who once thought less of themselves, like I once did, and let them know that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to.